Good evening and welcome back to my channel. The talks just collapsed. America and Iran sat down in Oman this morning for what was supposed to be the negotiation that prevents World War III. 90 minutes later, American officials walked out. The meeting is over, and within hours, the U.S. Embassy in Iran issued an emergency alert to all American citizens. 3 words: leave Iran now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. The alert says do not rely on U.S. government assistance for departure. Figure it out yourself. Get to the border, book a flight, leave the country, because what's coming next won't give you time to pack. Energy analysts are now putting the probability of U.S.-Iran military conflict at 75%. Not in months, in days or weeks. And Israel just held an emergency meeting between their AIR force commander and military intelligence chief to finalize strike plans. Because if America attacks Iran, Israel is joining. This isn't a warning anymore. This is evacuation and mobilization. The countdown has started. Let me tell you exactly what happened in Muscat, Oman today, that has the entire Middle East on the edge of war. Trump sent his special envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner to negotiate with Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi. These were supposed to be the high-stakes talks that either produce a nuclear deal or trigger military strikes. The location alone tells you how badly this was going. Originally, talks were supposed to happen in Istanbul, Turkey. Turkey had brokered a framework that included not just America and Iran, but also Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Oman, Pakistan, and the UAE, a regional solution. Everybody at the table. 2 tracks of negotiation. Track 1, Iran's nuclear program. Track 2, Iran's ballistic missiles, support for terrorist groups, and the massacre of 30,000 protesters in January. But Iran said no. They demanded the talks move to Oman, and they demanded it be bilateral, just America and Iran. No other countries, no regional issues, nuclear program only. America suspected Iran was trying to avoid accountability for everything except nukes, trying to get sanctions relief while keeping their missile program and proxy networks. But Trump agreed to the change. He sent Witkoff and Kushner anyway, gave Iran the bilateral meeting they wanted. The talks started this morning, and 90 minutes later, American officials left. According to reports just published, the U.S. delegation abruptly departed. The meeting is over. No breakthrough, no framework, no agreement to continue talking. America walked out. Now here's what Iran was actually trying to do in those 90 minutes. Iranian state television said the talks may take longer and could continue in the coming days. That's Iran trying to buy time. A.L. Mayadeen, a Hezbollah-affiliated broadcaster, reported that what happened in Muscat was, quote, negotiations about negotiations, not negotiations over details. Let that sink in. Iran wasn't negotiating a nuclear deal. They were negotiating whether to negotiate, what topics would be on the agenda, what format future talks would take. America came to make a deal. Iran came to stall. And after 90 minutes, America realized they were being played. Iranian officials confirmed Iran's position. A senior cleric named Ahmad Alamolhoda described the talks as a political game and said negotiations held under military pressure were, quote, not serious or real. Another cleric, Ahmad Khatami, said Iran would continue uranium enrichment and dismissed international calls to suspend the program as irrelevant. So Iran's position walking into the room was, we're not stopping enrichment, we're not serious about these talks, this is a political game, and we're only here because you threatened us. That's not a negotiating partner, that's a country running out the clock until Trump gets distracted or the military threat passes. But here's where Iran badly miscalculated. Hours after the talks collapsed, the U.S. virtual embassy in Iran issued a security alert. I'm going to read you the key line. Leave Iran now. Not consider leaving. Not make contingency plans. Leave now. The alert continues. Prepare departure plans that do not rely on U.S. government assistance. That's diplomatic language for we are not coming to rescue you. If war starts and you're still in Iran, you're on your own. The embassy warned of nationwide disruptions and communication blackouts. Iran is about to shut down the internet and cut phone lines just like they did during the January massacre. And when that happens, American citizens trapped in Iran won't be able to call for help, won't be able to reach the embassy, won't be able to coordinate evacuation. They'll be stuck in a country at war with America. This is the same alert America issues before military action. They did it before the Iraq invasion, before strikes on Syria, before operations in Afghanistan. The U.S. government tells its citizens, get out because we're not responsible for what happens next. Energy analyst Bob McNally, president of Rapidan Energy Group, just put out an assessment. He says there is a 75% probability that the U.S. and Iran will engage in military hostilities in the coming days or weeks. 75%. That's not speculation. That's analysis based on forced deployments, diplomatic failures, and Trump's track record. McNally outlined the scenarios. First, a Venezuela-style blockade. America surrounds Iran, cuts off all oil exports, starves the regime. Second, selective or limited strikes, hit missile facilities, IRGC bases, nuclear sites. Third, large-scale military conflict, full air campaign, regime change operation, boots on the ground. And MC Nally's assessment is America's best-case scenario is already off the table. The best case was a diplomatic deal that avoids war. That option died in Muscat after 90 minutes. Now America is choosing between bad options and worse options. Limited strikes that might not stop Iran's nuclear program, or massive escalation that could destabilize the entire Middle East. Trump has to decide which risk he's willing to take, because doing nothing is no longer on the menu. Iran just proved they're not negotiating in good faith. And Trump put America's credibility on the line by sending the USS Abraham Lincoln and threatening speed and violence. Let me tell you what Israel is doing while America negotiates. Today, Israel's Air Force Commander Tomer Bar and Military Intelligence Chief Shlomi Binder held a high-level meeting. According to Ynet, they reviewed plans for possible action against Iran if the United States launches a strike. The meeting focused on readiness and plan approvals. Israel is finalizing what they'll hit if America goes to war. And Ynet reported Israel could join any response if attacked. That's the key phrase, if attacked. Iran has already threatened that if America strikes them, Israel will be the first target. Iran doesn't have the capability to hit America directly, but they can overwhelm Israel with thousands of ballistic missiles. And if that happens, Israel isn't going to just absorb the attack. They're going to retaliate, which means an America-Iran war instantly becomes an America-Israel-Iran war. Prime Minister Netanyahu met with Trump's team before they left for Oman. Israeli officials say Netanyahu emphasized one message: Iran cannot be trusted. Any promises they make will be broken. Any deal Trump signs will be violated. Netanyahu has been pushing Trump to reject any agreement that leaves Iran's ballistic missile program intact, because Israel knows the real threat isn't Iran's nuclear program anymore. It's the missiles. America destroyed Iran's 3 main nuclear facilities in June. Iran's enrichment capacity is crippled. Their centrifuges are smashed. Their underground bunkers are collapsed. They can't build a bomb quickly, even if they wanted to, but they can still launch missiles. And Israel is demanding Trump addresses that. But here's what Israel discovered that nobody else is reporting. Satellite imagery analyzed by the New York Times shows Iran has moved quickly to repair ballistic missile facilities damaged in strikes last year. Meanwhile, reconstruction at major nuclear sites has been slower and more limited. John P. Caves III, an expert at the U.S. National Defense University, explained why. Quote, threatening Israel and U.S. bases and allies in the region with missile attacks is one of Iran's few options to deter repeat strikes on its nuclear facilities. Iran is prioritizing missiles over nukes because they learned from the Israel-Iran war that their proxies can't protect them. Hezbollah didn't help. The Houthis didn't help. Iraqi militias didn't help. Iran stood alone against Israel and lost. So now they're betting everything on their own missile stockpile. Joseph Rogers of the Center for Strategic and International Studies confirmed this. He said, quote, we haven't seen any intensive recovery efforts to try to get equipment out of these facilities, referring to Iran's nuclear sites. David Albright, head of the Institute for Science and International Security, said recent activity near nuclear sites is raising concern, but added, quote, we don't think it is urgent or imminent by any means. So Iran is rebuilding their missile factories at near full capacity while letting their nuclear program sit damaged. That tells you everything about their strategy. They're preparing for war, not a nuclear breakout. War with conventional missiles that can hit Israel and U.S. bases across the Gulf. And Iran has been telegraphing this for weeks. Iran's Fars news agency, which is close to the country's security forces, has been publishing images of U.S. military bases in the region. No commentary, just photos. Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Naval Support Activity, Bahrain. Camp Arif Jan in Kuwait. These are Iran's targets. Iran is showing America, we know where your 50,000 troops are stationed. We know where your command centers are. We know where your aircraft and ships are based. And we can reach all of them with ballistic missiles. It's the same psychological warfare Russia used against Ukraine before the invasion, publishing satellite images of targets to create fear and deter response. But Trump isn't Biden, and that's what Iran keeps misunderstanding. Iran's leadership thinks they can threaten U.S. bases, and Trump will back down to protect troops. They think they can stall in negotiations and Trump will give them more time. They think they can shoot down drones and harass tankers and Trump will issue statements instead of strikes. But Trump has a different calculation. He already bombed Iran's nuclear facilities in June. He assassinated Qasem Soleimani in 2020. He invaded Venezuela 4 weeks ago. Trump's default setting is escalation, not restraint. And Iran walking out of talks after 90 minutes just gave him justification to escalate. Now, here's the timeline everyone is watching. The evacuation alert says leave Iran now. That suggests America believes military action could happen within days, not weeks. Days. MC Nally's 75% probability is for coming days or weeks, but the evacuation warning is immediate. That gap tells you the Pentagon thinks the window is closing fast. Maybe 72 hours, maybe less. Trump has the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group in position. He has B-2 stealth bombers that can deploy on hours' notice. He has Tomahawk cruise missiles on destroyers throughout the Gulf. The military assets are ready. The diplomatic option just died, and the evacuation order is issued. All that's left is Trump's decision. And there's one more factor nobody's talking about. Muslim countries are trying to prevent this war. According to diplomats quoted by the Times of Israel, Muslim nations are pushing America and Iran to sign a non-aggression pact. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Oman, Pakistan, and the UAE are all involved. They're terrified that an America-Iran war destroys the regional economy. Oil prices would spike above $200 a barrel. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz would stop. Their own populations might revolt if they're seen as supporting America against a Muslim country. So they're desperately trying to broker any agreement that prevents conflict. But Iran just rejected talks, and America just walked out. The regional mediators failed. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz weighed in today during a visit to Qatar. He urged Iran's leadership to truly enter talks and said there is, quote, great fear of military escalation in the region. Merz said Iran has to stop its nuclear program and avoid further military threats to Israel and other countries. He confirmed Germany is coordinating closely with the U.S. That's Europe preparing for America to strike. Because if Trump launches an operation, Germany doesn't want to be blindsided. They want to coordinate sanctions, intelligence sharing, and diplomatic responses. Merz meeting with Saudi Arabia and Qatar this week isn't coincidence. It's preparation. Here's what Iran is facing right now that makes this so dangerous for them. Their economy is collapsing. Trump's sanctions have cut oil exports to almost nothing. China isn't buying Iranian oil anymore because they're negotiating trade deals with America. Iran's currency is worthless. Inflation is destroying the middle class. The regime just massacred 30,000 protesters, and the population is seething with rage. Iran's military is degraded from the Israel war. Their AIR force is ancient. Their AR defense systems are destroyed. Their nuclear facilities are damaged. Their proxies are weakened. And now America is threatening invasion while Israel is planning to join. This is the worst position Iran has been in since the 1979 revolution. But Iran's leadership thinks showing weakness gets them overthrown. Khamenei believes if he surrenders to American demands, the Iranian people will rise up and kill him. He thinks maintaining defiance is his only path to survival. So he's willing to risk war with America rather than appear weak domestically. That's the calculation. It's not rational. It's not strategic. It's pure regime survival instinct. And that's why the talks failed. Because Iran wasn't negotiating to avoid war. They were negotiating to look tough while buying time. And America finally called their bluff. Now, let me tell you the scenarios for the next 48 to 72 hours. Scenario 1, Trump gives Iran another 48 hours to return to talks with a real offer. He makes a public statement setting a hard deadline. If Iran doesn't show up with serious concessions by Sunday night, strikes begin Monday morning. This gives Iran one last chance while maintaining maximum pressure. Scenario 2, Trump authorizes limited strikes on Iran's missile facilities without warning, just like he did with Soleimani. No announcement, no buildup, just explosions across Iran targeting the sites they've been rebuilding. Short, sharp, punitive. Then Trump offers talks again from a position of strength. Scenario 3, Trump does nothing for now but tightens the blockade. More sanctions, more naval patrols, strangle Iran's economy until the regime either collapses internally or comes back to negotiate for real. Scenario 4 is the nightmare. Iran launches a preemptive strike thinking America's attack is imminent. They hit U.S. bases with ballistic missiles, kill American troops, force Trump to respond massively. That triggers the 75% probability scenario, full-scale war, regime change operation. Israel joining, the entire Middle East destabilizes, oil hits $300 a barrel, global recession, thousands dead, and Iran's regime falls anyway, but only after destroying the region. That's the scenario everyone is trying to prevent. But Iran's paranoia and America's credibility requirements make it increasingly likely. Here's what you need to watch in the next 24 to 48 hours to know which scenario is playing out. First, watch Trump's statements. If he stays quiet, he's preparing military action. If he tweets threats, he's giving Iran more time. Second, watch Iran's rhetoric. If Khamenei goes on television denying talks failed and claiming victory, they're backing down quietly. If he threatens America, they're preparing for war. Third, watch oil prices. If crude jumps above $85 a barrel, markets think strikes are coming. Fourth, watch military movements. If additional carrier groups head toward Iran, if bomber deployments leak, if Israel mobilizes reserves, that's the 24-hour warning. Fifth, watch American citizen departures from Iran. If we see reports of Americans flooding the borders trying to leave, that means they believe the evacuation warning is real. And watch Israel. If Netanyahu convenes the security cabinet again this weekend, if the AIR force goes to high alert, if Israel starts distributing gas masks to civilians, they know something the public doesn't. Israel has better intelligence on Iran than America does. If they're mobilizing, it means they've intercepted communications showing Iran is preparing to strike first, or that America's attack is imminent. Israel won't get caught by surprise. They're going to be ready to join America's operation or defend themselves from Iran's retaliation. The Strait of Hormuz is the critical choke point everyone is watching. 20% of the world's oil passes through that narrow waterway every day. Iran has threatened to close it before. They have naval mines. They have anti-ship missiles. They have small, fast attack boats. If Iran decides to go down fighting, they'll try to shut the strait and take the global economy with them. That's their final card. Close the strait, spike oil prices, crash markets, make America pay an economic price for military action. But America has spent decades preparing to keep the strait open. The Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain specifically to guarantee freedom of navigation. If Iran tries to mine the strait, America will clear it by force. And that escalates into exactly the kind of naval warfare that leads to full-scale conflict. Here's what makes this moment so dangerous compared to previous America-Iran confrontations. Iran has nothing left to lose. Their economy is destroyed. Their nuclear program is crippled. Their population hates them. Their military is degraded. Their regional influence is collapsing. The regime is fighting for survival. That makes them unpredictable. A government that's confident and secure can be deterred. A government that's desperate and cornered might do anything. Iran might calculate that fighting America, even if they lose, is better than slowly suffocating under sanctions. At least war gives them a narrative. At least combat lets them play the victim. At least resistance maintains their revolutionary identity. Surrender looks like weakness. War looks like defiance. And Trump has his own political calculations. He promised his base he'd be tough on Iran. He threatened military action. He sent the carrier strike group. If Iran attacks U.S. forces or refuses to negotiate and Trump does nothing, he looks weak. His entire foreign policy credibility collapses. North Korea stops taking him seriously. China ignores his trade threats. Russia laughs at his Ukraine demands. Trump has to follow through. Not because war is smart strategy, because he's painted himself into a corner where backing down destroys his presidency. So both sides are trapped by their own rhetoric in a spiral toward conflict neither actually wants, but neither can escape. The 90-minute collapse of talks in Muscat this morning was the moment diplomatic solutions died. Iran came to stall. America came to deal. After 90 minutes, America realized they were being played and walked out. Now we're in the countdown. Evacuation warnings issued, war probability at 75%, Israel finalizing strike plans, Iran rebuilding missile facilities, Trump deciding whether to hit them before they hit us, and the entire world watching to see if this ends with bombs or talks. The next 48 to 72 hours will determine everything, because once the first missile flies, there's no going back. This either de-escalates immediately or it explodes into the war everyone's been dreading since Trump took office. And right now, explosion looks a lot more likely than de-escalation. We just witnessed the collapse of the last diplomatic effort to prevent America-Iran war. 90 minutes of talks in Oman. Then American officials walked out. Hours later, the U.S. Embassy told Americans, leave Iran now. Energy analysts put war probability at 75% in the next days or weeks. Here's what I need from you. If you think Trump will strike Iran militarily in the next 72 hours, comment strike. If you think this is pressure tactics and talks will resume, comment negotiate. And if you think Iran will launch a preemptive attack, comment Iran strikes first. Smash that like button if you want daily updates as this crisis develops. We're tracking every military movement, every evacuation, every threat from both sides. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because when Trump makes his decision, you'll know immediately. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand why American citizens are being told to flee Iran right now. The mainstream media is reporting talks continue. You just got the truth showing they collapsed after 90 minutes. Drop your prediction below. Strike, negotiate, or Iran strikes first, because the evacuation warning is real. The 75% war probability is real. And the next 48 to 72 hours will show us if diplomacy is dead or if Trump gives Iran one last chance. Either way, the countdown has started. Thanks for watching. Now we wait to see if today's failed talks lead to tomorrow's war.